In the noisy, fast-paced city of New York, where skyscrapers touched the clouds and dreams were both made and broken every day, there lived a young woman named Mia. She was just 24 years old, but carried responsibilities far heavier than her age suggested. Every morning she woke up before sunrise to get ready for her job at a small cafe tucked away in a busy corner of Manhattan. The cafe wasn't anything fancy, just a cozy little place with mismatched chairs, faded walls, and the smell of freshly brewed coffee lingering in the air. But it was here that Mia spent most of her days, serving customers who barely noticed. Mia worked as a waitress, a role that required patience, endurance, and a smile even when she didn't feel like smiling. Some days the work felt endless, taking orders, carrying trays laden with food, cleaning tables after messy eaters, and dealing with rude comments from stressed-out patrons. Yet, despite the challenges, Mia never complained. She had learned, early on, that life wasn't fair and complaining wouldn't change anything. Instead, she focused on her goals. Her dream was simple: save enough money to leave the chaos of the city behind and start over somewhere quieter, maybe near the ocean where she could watch the waves crash against the shore. But beneath Mia's calm exterior lay a deep sadness, a wound that had never fully healed. When Mia was only 5 years old, her mother disappeared without a trace. One day, her mother was there, tucking her into bed and singing lullabies. The next, she was gone, leaving behind an empty house and unanswered questions. No one knew what happened. The police searched for months but found no clues. Neighbors whispered theories. Some said she ran away. Others believed something terrible must have occurred. But none of it brought her back. Growing up without her mother was hard. Mia often wondered why she left. Did she not love her daughter? Was she forced to go, or was there some other reason? Over time, Mia stopped asking questions because the answers never came. All she had left of her mother was a single photograph, an old, slightly torn picture of a beautiful woman with warm eyes and a gentle smile. That photo stayed safely tucked inside Mia's wallet, a reminder of the mother she barely remembered, but still loved deeply. Life went on, and Mia learned to cope. She finished high school, took odd jobs to support herself, and eventually landed the position at the cafe. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. Still, there were moments when loneliness crept in, especially late at night when the city lights flickered outside her tiny apartment window. On those nights, Mia would pull out the photograph and stare at it, imagining what her life might have been like if her mother had stayed. One particularly dreary afternoon, as rain poured down. In sheets outside, the cafe was unusually quiet. Most people preferred to stay indoors during such weather, so Mia spent her shift wiping down already clean tables and organizing menus. Just as she thought the day would pass without incident, the door opened, and a man walked in. He was tall, impeccably dressed in a sleek black suit, and carried an aura of confidence that made everyone turn their heads. This wasn't someone who blended into the crowd. He stood out, like a diamond among pebbles. The man introduced himself as Alexander Hartwell, though Mia didn't recognize the name. To her, he was just another customer, albeit one who seemed worlds apart from her own reality. Wealthy businessmen like him rarely visited places like this cafe. They usually frequented upscale restaurants or private clubs, not cozy diners with chipped plates and squeaky chairs. But Alexander seemed different. There was a certain warmth in his demeanor, a kindness that contrasted sharply with his polished appearance. He ordered a cup of black coffee and sat at a corner table, pulling out a tablet to review documents. As Mia approached him with his order, she couldn't help but notice something unusual. His wallet, which lay casually on the table, was slightly open. Inside, peeking out from between credit cards and receipts, was a small photograph. At first glance, it looked ordinary, but something about it caught Mia's attention. The face in the photo looked familiar, too familiar. For a brief moment, her heart skipped a beat. Could it be? No, it couldn't be. Shaking off the thought, Mia placed the coffee on the table and quickly excused herself. Back in the kitchen, Mia tried to focus on her tasks, but her mind kept drifting back to that photograph. Who was the person in the picture? Why did they look so much like her mother? And why would a man like Alexander carry their photo around? Questions swirled in her head, each one more puzzling than the last. By the end of her shift, Mia was exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally too. She couldn't stop thinking about the image she'd seen, and the possibility that it might hold answers to the mystery of her mother's disappearance. That night, unable to sleep, Mia retrieved the old photograph of her mother from her wallet. Holding it carefully, she compared it to the memory of the photo she'd glimpsed earlier. The resemblance was uncanny. Both women had the same soft features, the same kind eyes, and the same faint smile that seemed to radiate warmth. It was almost as if they were the same person. But how could that be? If her mother was alive, why hadn't she come back for her daughter? And if she wasn't alive, why would Alexander have her picture? Mia's mind raced with possibilities, each one more confusing than the last. She tossed and turned in bed, replaying the events of the day in her head. Something about Alexander, and that photograph, felt significant, like a puzzle piece waiting to fit into place. Little did she know, this chance encounter would set off a chain of events that would unravel secrets buried deep in her past and change her life forever. As the rain continued to patter against her window, Mia finally drifted off to sleep, her thoughts consumed by unanswered questions. Tomorrow was another day, and perhaps it would bring clarity. Until then, all she could do was wait and hope. The next morning, Mia woke up feeling uneasy. The image of the photograph from Alexander's wallet lingered in her mind like a shadow she couldn't shake off. She tried to convince herself it was just a coincidence. After all, people often looked alike. But deep down, she knew something wasn't right. Her curiosity burned brighter than ever, and she couldn't let go of the nagging thought that somehow, this man held answers to questions she'd carried for nearly 2 decades. As fate would have it, Alexander returned to the cafe later that afternoon. This time he seemed more relaxed, scrolling through emails on his phone while sipping an espresso. He didn't notice Mia watching him from behind the counter, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and dread. What if the photograph really was of her mother? And what if asking about it made things worse? She hesitated, unsure whether to approach him or let it go. But then she remembered the sleepless nights she had endured, the endless tossing and turning as her mind raced with possibilities. If there was even the slightest chance this man knew something about her mother, she had to take it. Summoning every ounce of courage, Mia walked over to his table. Her hands trembled slightly as she clutched the notepad she always carried. "Excuse me, sir," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. I noticed something yesterday when I brought you your coffee." Alexander looked up, surprised by her sudden appearance. His sharp blue eyes studied her face curiously. "Oh?" he replied, raising an eyebrow. "What is it?" Mia swallowed hard, trying to steady her nerves. "Well, I saw a photograph in your wallet. May I ask who it is?" For a moment, Alexander said nothing. He leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, he reached into his pocket and pulled out the wallet. Flipping it open, he revealed the small photo, tucked neatly inside. It was exactly as Mia remembered, a woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. The resemblance to her mother was uncanny, almost eerie. "This is my late wife," Alexander said softly, his tone tinged with sadness. "Her name was Emily." Mia felt her stomach drop. Late wife? So her mother was dead after all. Crushed, she forced herself to nod politely. "I'm sorry for your loss," she murmured, her voice trembling. But before she could retreat, another question bubbled to the surface. "If you don't mind me asking, what was her full name?" "Emily Hartwell," Alexander replied without hesitation. Mia froze. Emily Hartwell. That was her mother's name. Her full name. The realization hit her like a tidal wave, leaving her breathless. Her knees wobbled, and for a second she thought she might collapse. How could this be? Why would a billionaire like Alexander carry around a picture of her mother? And why hadn't her mother told her about him? Unable to process everything at once, Mia excused herself and hurried to the staff room. Leaning against the wall, she fished out the worn photograph of her mother from her wallet. Side by side, the images were strikingly similar. There was no denying it. They were the same person. Tears welled up in Mia's eyes as a whirlwind of emotion swept over her. Relief, anger, confusion, grief. It was all too much to handle. Over the next few hours, Mia struggled to focus on her work. Every task felt mechanical, her movements robotic. Customers came and went, but their voices sounded distant, muffled, by the storm raging inside her head. She replayed every detail of her conversation with Alexander, searching for clues, for answers. Was her mother alive when she married him? Had she left Mia willingly? Or was there some other explanation? By the end of her shift, Mia's resolve hardened. She needed to know the truth, no matter how painful it might be. As Alexander prepared to leave the cafe, Mia approached him again. This time, her voice was steadier, though her hands still shook. "Mr. Hartwell, may I speak with you for a moment?" He paused, looking at her quizzically. "Of course," he replied. "Is everything all right?" Mia took a deep breath, steeling herself for what she was about to say. "That photograph, the one of your wife. I think she might be my mother." Alexander's eyes widened in shock. For a long moment, he simply stared at her, as if trying to process her words. Finally, he spoke, his voice low and measured. "Your mother?" "Yes," Mia said, clutching the photograph tightly. "Her name was Emily. She disappeared when I was 5 years old. I've been searching for answers ever since." Alexander frowned, his brow furrowing in thought. "Emily never mentioned having a daughter," he said cautiously. "She told me she was an orphan, that she didn't have any family." Mia's heart sank. So her mother had lied to him too. But why? Why would she keep such a huge secret? And what had happened to her? Sensing her distress, Alexander softened his tone. "Look, I don't know what to make of this," he admitted. "But if you're serious, maybe we can talk more. Perhaps there's something I can do to help." Grateful for his willingness to listen, Mia agreed. They exchanged numbers and arranged to meet the following day at a nearby cafe. As Alexander walked away, Mia felt a strange mix of hope and apprehension. For so many years, she had wondered about her mother's fate, longing for closure. Now it seemed she might finally get some answers. But at what cost? Would the truth bring peace, or only more pain? That night, Mia lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. Her mind buzzed with thoughts of Emily, Alexander, and the life they must have shared together. Wealthy, glamorous, perfect, it was a world entirely foreign to Mia. Yet despite their differences, they were connected by one thing: Emily. Somehow, some way, her mother had touched both their lives, leaving behind a legacy of love and secrets that spanned generations. As dawn broke over the city skyline, Mia realized this was only the beginning. Whatever truths lay ahead, she was ready to face them. After all, she had spent half her life waiting for answers. Now, armed with determination and a newfound ally in Alexander, she was closer than ever to uncovering the mystery of her mother's disappearance. Little did she know the journey would lead her to places she never imagined and reveal truths that would change her life forever. The next morning, Mia woke up with a knot in her stomach. Sleep had been elusive the previous night, her mind racing with questions about Alexander and the photograph of her mother. She replayed their conversation over and over again in her head, trying to make sense of it all. How could her mother have married someone like Alexander? Why hadn't she told him about her daughter? And most importantly, why had she left Mia behind? Despite the whirlwind of emotion swirling inside her, Mia knew she couldn't back down now. She had waited too long for answers, and this was her chance to finally uncover the truth. With trembling hands, she got ready for the day, choosing simple clothes that made her feel comfortable yet presentable. As she left her tiny apartment, the crisp autumn air slapped against her face, grounding her momentarily. It was as if the world outside was reminding her to stay strong, When Mia arrived at the cafe where they had agreed to meet, Alexander was already there, seated at a quiet corner table. He looked polished as ever, his suit perfectly tailored, his posture upright. Yet there was something softer about him today. His expression wasn't as guarded, and his eyes held a flicker of curiosity mingled with concern. Seeing Mia approach, he stood up politely and gestured for her to sit. "Thank you for meeting me," Mia said, her voice barely above a whisper. She slid into the chair across from him, clutching her purse tightly to steady her nerves. "Of course," Alexander replied warmly. "I admit your story has left me intrigued. I want to understand what's going on." Mia nodded, taking a deep breath before diving in. "My name is Mia Thompson," she began, "and my mother disappeared when I was 5 years old. Her name was Emily. That much I know for sure. But after she left, no one could tell me anything about where she went or why. All I had was this." She pulled out the faded photograph from her wallet and placed it on the table between them. Alexander studied the image carefully, his brow furrowing. After a moment, he reached into his own wallet and retrieved the photograph of his late wife. Placing it beside Mia's picture, the resemblance was undeniable. Both women shared the same warm smile, the same kind eyes, the same gentle aura. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The weight of the discovery hung heavy in the air. "This is definitely her," Alexander said finally, his voice tinged with awe. "But I swear to you, Mia, I never knew she had a child." Mia felt a pang of frustration mixed with sadness. "So she lied to you too," she muttered under her breath. "What do you mean?" Alexander asked, leaning forward slightly. "She left me without saying goodbye," Mia explained, her voice cracking with emotion. "No note, no explanation, nothing. I've spent my entire life wondering why. Did she not love me? Was she forced to leave? Or did something terrible happen to her?" Alexander listened intently, his expression softening. When Mia finished speaking, he sighed deeply, rubbing his temples as if trying to piece together fragments of a puzzle. "Emily and I met many years ago," he began. "She was working as a waitress at a diner downtown. I remember being struck by her kindness, her laugh. We fell in love quickly and got married within a year. She never mentioned having a family, let alone a child. She always said she was an orphan." Mia frowned, her heart aching at the thought of her mother keeping such a huge secret. "Why would she lie about me?" she whispered, more to herself than to Alexander. "I don't know," Alexander admitted honestly. "But I can tell you this. Emily loved fiercely. Whatever her reasons were, I believe she must have thought she was doing the right thing for both of you." Though his words offered some comfort, Mia still struggled to reconcile the idea of her mother abandoning her. "If she loved me so much, why didn't she come back?" she asked, tears welling up in her eyes. "Why didn't she at least try to find me?" Alexander hesitated, clearly torn between wanting to protect Emily's memory and acknowledging the pain Mia was feeling. "There are parts of Emily's past that I'll never fully understand," he confessed. "She had scars, emotional ones, that she kept hidden even from me. Maybe she thought leaving was the only way to protect you." "Protect her from what?" The question lingered unanswered, adding another layer of mystery to the already tangled web of secrets. Mia wiped away her tears, determined to push through the confusion. "Can you tell me more about her?" she asked. "Anything that might help me understand." Alexander nodded, visibly moved by Mia's vulnerability. Over the next hour, he painted a vivid picture of Emily, the woman he had fallen in love with and cherished deeply. He described her passion for cooking, her love for sunsets, and her habit of humming old songs while reading books. He talked about their happiest moments together, like the time they traveled to Italy and spent days exploring quaint villages hand in hand. But he also spoke candidly about the challenges they faced, including Emily's occasional bouts of melancholy and her reluctance to discuss certain aspects of her past. As Mia listened, she felt a strange mix of emotions. On one hand, hearing about her mother's life filled her with warmth. It was like getting glimpses of a person she had missed dearly. On the other hand, It only deepened the ache of knowing how much she had missed out on. Her mother had lived a full, beautiful life with Alexander, while Mia had grown up alone, searching for answers that never came. Eventually, Alexander paused, his voice thick with emotion. "Emily passed away suddenly," he said softly. "It was unexpected, a rare illness we didn't see coming. Losing her was devastating. I still miss her every day." Mia felt her chest tighten. Her mother was gone, truly gone, and she would never get the chance to ask her the questions that had haunted her for years. The realization hit her like a punch to the gut, leaving her breathless. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she tried to process everything she had learned. Seeing her distress, Alexander reached across the table and placed a comforting hand on hers. "I'm sorry, Mia," he said sincerely. "I wish I had known about you sooner. Maybe things would have been different." Mia sniffled, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. "It's not your fault," she replied shakily. "You didn't." "No, neither did I." For a while they sat in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. Despite the heaviness of the conversation, there was a sense of understanding forming between them, a fragile but growing connection forged by their shared love for Emily. Though they came from vastly different worlds, they were united by the woman who had shaped both their lives in profound ways. As the meeting drew to a close, Alexander promised to help Mia learn more about her mother. "I have boxes of Emily's belongings stored away," he explained. "Letters, journals, photographs. You're welcome to go through them whenever you're ready. Maybe they'll give you some closure." Mia nodded gratefully, feeling a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. For the first time in years, she wasn't alone in her search for answers. Alexander's willingness to support her meant more than he could possibly imagine. Walking home later that evening, Mia felt a strange mix of relief and grief. The truth about her mother was beginning to unfold, but it came with a bittersweet reality. Emily was gone, and nothing could change that. Still, Mia clung to the hope that understanding her mother's choices, even the painful ones, would bring her peace. Little did she know, the journey ahead would reveal even more surprises, testing her strength and resilience in ways she couldn't yet anticipate. Over the next few days, Mia found herself caught in a whirlwind of emotions. The revelation about her mother's connection to Alexander had opened doors she never thought possible, but it also brought with it a flood of questions and doubts. How could her mother have kept such a massive secret? Why hadn't she come back for Mia? And what exactly had driven her to leave in the first place? These thoughts haunted Mia as she navigated her daily routine at the cafe, her mind constantly drifting back to the conversation with Alexander. True to his word, Alexander invited Mia to visit his penthouse apartment on the Upper East Side later that week. It was a world entirely foreign to Mia, a sprawling space filled with modern art, floor-to-ceiling windows offering breathtaking views of the city skyline, and an aura of luxury that made her feel out of place. Despite her discomfort, Alexander greeted her warmly, treating her not as a stranger but as someone he genuinely cared about. He led her to a quiet study where several boxes were neatly stacked against the wall. "These are Emily's things," Alexander explained, gesturing toward the boxes. "Letters, journals, photographs, everything I could save after she passed away. I haven't touched them in years, but I think it's time they saw the light again." Mia nodded, her heart pounding with anticipation. She knelt beside one of the boxes and began sifting through its contents. At first the items seemed ordinary, old postcards, receipts, random trinkets. But as she dug deeper, she stumbled upon something extraordinary, a leather-bound journal. Its cover was worn, the edges frayed from years of use. Carefully, Mia opened it, her eyes scanning the pages filled with her mother's handwriting. The entries revealed glimpses of Emily's inner world, her joys, fears, and struggles. In one passage, Emily wrote about meeting Alexander, describing their love story with a tenderness that brought tears to Mia's eyes. In another, she expressed guilt over leaving her past behind. though she never explicitly mentioned having a child. The more Mia read, the clearer it became that Emily had been carrying a heavy burden, one she couldn't bring herself to share with anyone, not even her husband. As Mia flipped through the journal, she came across a section that stopped her cold. Dated just months before Emily met Alexander, the entry spoke of fear and desperation. "I can't stay here any longer," Emily had written. "They're getting closer, and if they find us, we'll both be in danger. My baby deserves a better life than this, a life free from fear. I have no choice but to let her go." Mia's hands trembled as she reread the words over and over again. Danger? Who were they? And why had Emily felt compelled to leave her daughter behind? Questions swirled in her mind, each one more confusing than the last. She looked up at Alexander, who had been watching her silently from across the room. "Doe. You know what she meant by danger?" Mia asked, her voice shaking. "Did she ever mention anything like this to you?" Alexander shook his head slowly, his expression pensive. "No, she didn't," he admitted. "But now that I think about it, there were moments when she seemed afraid. She would sometimes wake up in the middle of the night, startled, as if she'd seen something terrible. When I asked her about it, she brushed it off, saying it was nothing." Mia felt a chill run down her spine. Her mother hadn't abandoned her out of selfishness or lack of love. She had done it to protect her. But from what? And why had she never returned once the supposed threat was gone? Determined to uncover more, Mia continued exploring the boxes. Among the treasures she discovered were dozens of photographs, snapshots, of Emily smiling brightly, dancing under the stars and laughing with friends. There were also letters addressed to Emily, some signed with unfamiliar names, and others left unsigned. One particular letter stood out. Written in shaky handwriting, it read, "If you value your safety and your daughter's, you'll stay away. We're watching." Mia's blood ran cold. Someone, or some group, had been threatening Emily. The realization sent a wave of anger and sorrow crashing over her. All these years she had believed her mother had simply walked away, leaving her to fend for herself. But the truth was far more complicated and heartbreaking. Her mother had sacrificed everything to keep her safe. Seeing Mia's distress, Alexander placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "This must be overwhelming for you," he said gently. "Take your time. You don't have to figure everything out today." Mia nodded, grateful for his support. Despite the weight of the revelations, she felt a strange sense of relief. For so long she had carried the pain of rejection, convinced her mother hadn't loved her enough to stay. Now, she understood that Emily's decision had been born out of love. A desperate, selfless act meant to shield her daughter from harm. Over the following weeks, Mia and Alexander grew closer as they pieced together fragments of Emily's life. Together, they visited places Emily had loved, the park where she used to read, the bakery where she bought croissants every Sunday morning, and the beach where she spent countless hours watching sunsets. Each visit brought Mia a step closer to understanding the woman her mother had been, a kind, courageous soul who had faced unimaginable challenges, yet still managed to spread light wherever she went. Through these shared experiences, a bond formed between Mia and Alexander. Though they came from different worlds, they found common ground in their love for Emily. For Mia, it was comforting to finally know the truth about her mother. For Alexander, it was a chance to honor Emily's memory by caring for the daughter she had left behind. Slowly but surely, he became the father figure Mia had always longed for, a steady presence who listened without judgment and offered guidance without pressure. One evening, as they sat together on the balcony of Alexander's apartment overlooking the glittering city lights, Mia turned to him with a mixture of gratitude and curiosity. "Why are you doing all this for me?" she asked softly. "You barely knew me a few weeks ago." Alexander smiled, his gaze softening. "Because Emily would have wanted me to," he replied simply. "She may not have told me about you, but I know she loved you deeply. If I can help you heal, even just a little, then I'm honoring her in the best way I know how." Tears welled up in Mia's eyes as she realized the depth of his kindness. For the first time in years, she felt truly seen and valued, not as a waitress struggling to make ends meet, but as a person worthy of love and care. As the weeks turned into months, Mia began to envision a future filled with possibilities. With Alexander's encouragement, she started pursuing her dream of opening her own bakery. He helped her secure funding, navigate legal paperwork, and design the perfect menu. Every step of the way, he reminded her of her strength and resilience, qualities he insisted she had inherited from her mother. Though Emily was gone, her legacy lived on through Mia. The photograph that had once caused confusion and pain now symbolized hope and healing. It reminded Mia that even in loss there could be unexpected connections and second chances. And as she worked tirelessly to build her new life, she carried her mother's memory in her heart, drawing strength from the knowledge that Emily's love had guided her every step of the way. Little did Mia know, however, that the journey was far from over. While she had uncovered many secrets about her mother's past, there were still unanswered questions lurking in the shadows, questions that would challenge her courage and test her resolve in ways she couldn't yet imagine. As the months passed, Mia's life began to transform in ways she could never have anticipated. What started as a chance encounter with Alexander had blossomed into something far greater, a newfound sense of family and belonging. The bond they shared wasn't just built on their mutual love for Emily. It was forged through trust, understanding, and the shared desire to honor her memory. For Mia, who had spent most of her life feeling abandoned, this connection filled a void she hadn't realized was so deep. Alexander became more than just a source of support. He became a mentor, a confidant, and eventually, a father figure. He encouraged Mia to dream bigger, to believe in herself, and to take risks she would have otherwise shied away from. Under his guidance, Mia threw herself into planning her bakery with renewed energy. She envisioned a cozy space where customers could feel welcomed, a place that combined her mother's love for cooking with her own passion for baking. Every detail, the warm lighting, the rustic wooden tables, the scent of freshly baked goods, was carefully designed to reflect the warmth and kindness Emily had embodied. During their frequent visits to potential locations, Alexander often shared stories about Emily, painting a vivid picture of the woman Mia barely remembered but desperately longed to know. She used to bake these incredible apple pies, he recalled one afternoon while touring an empty storefront. The kind that made your whole house smell like autumn. I think she'd be proud of what you're doing. Mia smiled, her heart swelling with emotion. I hope so, she replied softly. I want this bakery to be a tribute to her in a way, something that keeps her spirit alive. Alexander nodded approvingly. That's exactly what it will be, he said, and I'll make sure it succeeds. True to his word, Alexander spared no effort in helping Mia bring her vision to life. He introduced her to architects, interior designers, and marketing experts who specialized in small businesses. He even accompanied her to meetings with suppliers, ensuring she got the best deals possible. Though Mia initially felt uneasy accepting his generosity, she soon realized it wasn't charity. It was his way of honoring Emily. By supporting Mia, he was keeping her mother's legacy alive. But it wasn't just practical help that Alexander provided. On quieter days when Mia struggled with self-doubt or felt overwhelmed by the enormity of her project, he offered words of encouragement that reminded her of her strength. You're more like your mother than you realize, he told her one
evening as they sat together reviewing blueprints. She had this quiet determination, this ability to face challenges head-on without losing sight of what mattered most.
You have that same fire inside you. Hearing those words gave Mia a boost of confidence she hadn't known she needed. Slowly but surely, she began to see herself not as the lonely waitress struggling to survive, but as someone capable of achieving greatness. Her dreams didn't seem so far-fetched anymore, not with Alexander cheering her on every step of the way. Their relationship continued to deepen as they worked side by side. One day, while sorting through another box of Emily's belongings, Mia stumbled upon a letter addressed to her. Written in Emily's elegant handwriting, it read, My dearest Mia, If you're reading this, it means I'm no longer there to watch you grow into the amazing person I know you'll become. Please forgive me for leaving. I did it because I wanted you to have a safe and happy life. Always remember how much I love you. Be brave, my sweet girl. The world is waiting for you. Tears streamed down Mia's face as she clutched the letter to her chest. It was as if her mother were speaking directly to her, offering comfort and reassurance across time and space. When she showed the letter to Alexander, his eyes glistened with unshed tears. "She loved you fiercely, Mia," he said softly. "Everything she did out of love." That moment solidified their bond even further. They weren't just two people connected by tragedy. They were partners in healing, united by their shared devotion to Emily. Together, they navigated the complexities of grief, finding solace in each other's company. As the bakery neared completion, excitement buzzed in the air. The once empty storefront now boasted a charming sign that read, "Emily's Corner Bakery," in bold, cheerful letters. Inside, shelves lined with freshly baked breads and pastries filled the room with irresistible aromas. Mia couldn't wait to open its doors and share her creations with the world. On the eve of the grand opening, Alexander took Mia out to dinner at a quiet restaurant overlooking Central Park. Over candlelight, he raised his glass in a toast. "To Emily," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "And to you, Mia, for carrying her light forward and making her proud." Mia felt a lump rise in her throat. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling, "for everything. I don't know where I'd be without you." "You'd still be amazing," Alexander replied with a warm smile. "But I'm glad we found each other. It feels like fate, doesn't it?" It did. Despite the pain and confusion of the past, Mia couldn't deny that meeting Alexander had been a blessing in disguise. Through him, she had discovered not only the truth about her mother but also a new chapter of her own life, one filled with love, purpose, and endless possibilities. The next morning, as Mia prepared for the bakery's opening day, she felt a mix of nerves and excitement. Would people like her creations? Would the bakery succeed? As customers began streaming in, however, all her worries melted away. Strangers complimented her pastries, regulars praised her coffee, and children tugged at their parents' sleeves begging for another slice of pie. Watching them enjoy her work filled Mia with a sense of fulfillment she had never experienced before. Standing behind the counter, Mia glanced at Alexander, who stood proudly beside her, beaming like any proud parent would. In that moment, she realized something profound. Family wasn't defined by blood alone. It was about connection, love, and the willingness to stand by each other through thick and thin. And though Emily was gone, her presence lingered, in the laughter of happy customers, in the warmth of freshly baked goods, and in the bond Mia had formed with Alexander. Life had thrown her curveballs, but Mia had emerged stronger, wiser, and surrounded by love. She had turned pain into purpose, loss into legacy, and uncertainty into hope. And as she served slices of warm apple pie to eager customers, she knew one thing for certain. Her mother's light would continue to shine brightly through her, and through the little bakery she had built in her honor. Yet, even as Mia celebrated her success, she couldn't shake the lingering questions about her mother's past. Who were the people who had threatened her? What dangers had forced her to leave? Though the answers remained elusive, Mia vowed to keep searching. For now, she cherished the peace she had found, but deep down she knew her journey was far from over. The success of Emily's Corner Bakery was more than Mia could have ever dreamed of. Within weeks, the cozy little shop became a local favorite, drawing customers from all corners of the city. People raved about the homemade pies, the buttery croissants, and the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee that greeted them as soon as they stepped inside. But what truly set the bakery apart wasn't just its delicious treats. It was the warmth and care Mia poured into every aspect of it. Customers often remarked on how inviting the space felt, like stepping into a hug from an old friend. For Mia, this was exactly what she had hoped to achieve. A place where people could feel loved and comforted, just as her mother's presence had once comforted her. Despite the joy and fulfillment the bakery brought, there were still shadows lingering in Mia's mind. The unanswered questions about her mother's past weighed heavily on her heart. Who were the people who had threatened Emily? Why had she been so afraid? And most importantly, was she truly safe now? These thoughts gnawed at her, even as she tried to focus on the present. She knew she couldn't move forward completely until she uncovered the truth. One afternoon, as Mia sat in the quiet corner of the bakery reviewing inventory lists, Alexander walked in unexpectedly. He looked unusually serious, his usual calm demeanor replaced by a sense of urgency. "Mia," he said, pulling up a chair beside her, "I think I've found something." Her heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" she asked, her voice tinged with both hope and apprehension. Alexander reached into his briefcase and pulled out a folder filled with documents. "After our last conversation, I hired a private investigator to look into Emily's past," he explained. "At first we didn't find much, just fragments here and there, but recently we stumbled upon some unsettling information." Mia's stomach tightened. "Unsettling? What do you mean?" "It seems your mother wasn't just running from vague threats," Alexander continued cautiously. "She was involved with someone, a man named Victor Langston, who turned out to be dangerous. He was part of an underground network involved in illegal activities. When Emily realized the extent of his crimes, she tried to leave him. That's when the threats began." Mia felt a chill run down her spine. "So those letters we found, they were from him?" "Yes," Alexander confirmed. "Victor didn't want Emily to leave. He feared she might expose him, so he used fear to keep her silent. From what we can gather, she fled not only to protect herself but also to ensure your safety." "But why didn't she come back once she was safe?" Mia pressed, tears welling up in her eyes. "Why did she stay away?" "She may have thought it was safer that way," Alexander replied gently. "If Victor believed she was alone, he might have left her alone too. Bringing you back into her life could have put you both at risk again." Though the explanation made sense, it didn't ease the ache in Mia's heart. Her mother had sacrificed everything for her. It was a bittersweet realization, one that left her feeling both grateful and heartbroken. Determined to learn more, Mia decided to confront the past head-on. With Alexander's help, she tracked down an old associate of Victor's, a retired lawyer named Mr. Harper, who had worked briefly with Emily during her time with Victor. Though hesitant at first, Mr. Harper agreed to meet with them under the condition of anonymity. The meeting took place in a dimly lit cafe on the outskirts of the city. Mr. Harper was an elderly man with kind eyes and a weathered face. As he spoke, Mia listened intently, piecing together fragments of her mother's story. According to Mr. Harper, Emily had been caught in a web of deceit and danger far beyond her control. She had tried to escape multiple times, each attempt thwarted by Victor's relentless pursuit. Eventually she managed to break free, disappearing without a trace, but not before leaving behind evidence that would later lead to Victor's arrest. "She saved lives," Mr. Harper said softly, "including yours." Hearing those words brought a mix of pride and sorrow to Mia. Her mother hadn't just been a victim, she had been brave, resourceful, and selfless. Knowing this gave Mia a newfound respect for the woman she barely remembered, and a deeper understanding of the sacrifices she had made. As the days turned into weeks, Mia continued to process everything she had learned. While the answers didn't erase the pain of losing her mother, they brought a measure of peace. For the first time, she understood why Emily had done what she did, and how much love had driven her actions. It was a legacy worth honoring, and Mia vowed to carry it forward in everything she did. With the mystery of her mother's past finally unraveled, Mia threw herself into building a brighter future. The bakery flourished, becoming not just a business but a community hub where people gathered to share stories, laughter, and moments of connection. Inspired by Emily's courage, Mia also began volunteering at shelters and mentoring young women who, like her, had faced adversity. She wanted to show them that no matter how hard life got, there was always hope and always a way to rise above. Alexander remained a constant source of support, cheering Mia on as she embraced her new role. As a leader and entrepreneur, their bond grew stronger with each passing day, transforming into something akin to father and daughter. Together, they celebrated milestones: the bakery's one-year anniversary, Mia's first major expansion, and countless other victories, big and small. On a crisp autumn evening, as golden leaves swirled in the wind outside the bakery, Mia stood behind the counter reflecting on how far she had come. The photograph of her mother still hung proudly on the wall, surrounded by snapshots of happy customers and handwritten notes of gratitude. It was a reminder of where she had started and how far she had traveled. Alexander joined her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You've done amazing things, Mia," he said warmly. "Emily would be so proud of you." Mia smiled, her eyes glistening with tears. "Thank you," she whispered, "for helping me find my way." In that moment, surrounded by the scent of fresh bread and the hum of contented chatter, Mia realized that her journey was never just about uncovering the truth. It was about healing, growing, and finding beauty in the broken pieces of her past. Her mother's light lived on, not just in the bakery, but in the lives Mia touched every single day. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the city, Mia closed the bakery doors for the night. Tomorrow was another day, full of possibilities and promise. And though the road ahead would undoubtedly bring challenges, Mia faced it with confidence, knowing she was no longer alone. She had a family now, one built not by blood but by love, trust, and the unbreakable bonds forged through shared memories of Emily. And so, with a heart full of gratitude and a spirit renewed, Mia stepped into her future, ready to write the next chapter of her extraordinary story.